Um, the title of my culminating senior project was The Importance of Books, and it was essentially about the importance of books to society, to culture, and to education. Really the root of all poverty is a lack of education. So I was trying to think of a way that I could make reading and books kind of more enjoyable for people, especially in the inner cities. So I actually created a small reading group which answered the question, how can I use my talents to create new opportunities for myself and others? I'm actually a fairly decent leader, just so long as the group is relatively small. So I actually created a reading group out of a couple friends of mine and my brother, and had them read The Sorcerer's Stone. The focus of the project were these questions of surveys that I actually created. Everyone in the group had to fill out one of these surveys, and they had to answer the question, because that's what you do on a survey, believe it or not. And the whole goal was to kind of get a feeling about how they felt being in a reading group, and ask them the questions, do you find the reading group an enjoyable alternative to reading on your own? The general consensus was yes, because people were able to discuss it with their peers, and they were able to go a little bit more in depth and think about things from different angles, so they got different aspects of the book than they would normally have gotten on their own. The second question was, how do you think you would have fared reading on your own? They all felt that they would have done fairly well on their own reading, but they did say that they enjoyed, like I said, they enjoyed the different aspect because everyone got to kind of think about it a little bit differently. The third question was, would you have been involved in more groups like this one? I was actually surprised, to be quite honest. I was surprised that people put down yes, because generally when someone hears of a reading group, they don't think of it as an enjoyable thing. They think of it kind of as a chore, kind of dreary thing. So people apparently really enjoyed getting together. The fourth question was, if a group or groups like this one had existed, would you have joined one of your own volition? And if you had, would you have done one in elementary school? And again, the general consensus was yes, but, except for Myra's. But hers, the only reason that she wrote no for joining one of her own volition was she would be afraid of getting judged by her peers in that kind of a situation where you pool your ideas and you give your opinions. So again, you run into that kind of peer pressure trouble, but that wasn't really the focus of my project. The fifth question was, do you think that groups such as this one would help to alleviate the stresses on youth who are trapped in the destructive atmosphere of the inner cities? And all of them said yes. One thing that I thought it would just make education more interesting for them because they grow to love reading at an earlier age. But one aspect that I didn't think of was it would actually allow an escape from the reality of their awful situations up to a certain point, where every week they could come to a safe place with people that they will know for most of their childhood, because it would be a community kind of project. And they would be able to, like I'm kind of rambling, they would all come together and they would really feel comfortable with these people, and they would be able to express their opinions and feel safe, and that would kind of provide a positive alternative to, I guess, gang life. And then the sixth one, did you enjoy the reading group in general? What would you have wanted to be done differently, if anything? 2 people actually requested for food, which I really hadn't thought of because we only met once. But a couple of people, somebody wanted cookies, and another person wanted other food there. But the other 2 people actually said that they would have enjoyed more time to go more in depth with the story. But that was really it. And then I actually also talked to Mr. Romer and actually had him answer a few questions about the importance of books in education. And the first question the question was, why do you think that books are an important component in today's culture? He essentially responded with the idea that it does help kids academically just by improving reading skills. My second book was talking about the e-books. If they were to replace the traditional form of a hard not hard copy, but a physical copy of a book, if it was to replace that, what did he think would happen? He said that he really didn't think that it would be a plausible replacement to an actual book, but he said that they do complement each other, which I was actually kind of surprised because he runs a media center. My third question was, do you believe that high school students would benefit from a book club environment in which they could become more comfortable and appreciative of books? He said that, yeah, he reinforced my idea that yes, it would be a good thing because it would create a positive atmosphere in which reading was learned as an enjoyable activity from an early age. And then this fourth one, I really just asked because I know he's really opinionated on this one, and I just wanted to give him something. The question was, if public schools were to shut down libraries, then what do you think would be the long-term effect on students' all-around performance in the academic world? Essentially, he really doesn't think that shutting down libraries is a good idea for public schools because media centers are the hub of learning in a school environment. And closing libraries would seriously impede our students in a global world where many other countries put a premium value upon children's education. So that was that. And then my 3 linking texts, well, actually I have 4 linking texts in my anchor text. My anchor text was actually a book called Books as History. I was actually really weirded out that this was an actual book, a book about books. Books as History. And it was essentially really just a book about books. It went through and outlined all of the different aspects and the importance of books, even in the digital age, and how essentially books have influenced history and art throughout the history of the world. And essentially outlining how important, how books, they seem to influence history just as often as they record history. My first linking text was the book Fahrenheit 451, which is a story about a dystopia where books are actually illegal, and it was a great example of what would happen without books. Society essentially becomes digital. Everyone is just hooked into their electronics. It's actually really interesting. I was surprised. It was written a long time ago. I really don't like books like that. It was really good. My second linking text was actually the book Inkheart, which kind of portrayed books as something that is important to children because it develops their reading skills, which allows them not only to communicate but also to take part in a world that is very orally oriented. You know, language, texting now. Far less communication is done through handwritten letters and such as messages that are sent back and forth, and this really shows how books can kind of lead into that, developing the written word and how important it is to children. My third linking text is actually, there's a picture of it in here, so I decided to use that one. Picture of the Jedi Temple in the Star Wars movies. Books here are portrayed, even in a science fiction, future-oriented kind of story, books are portrayed as something that manifests power. It's a symbol of authority. It's a symbol of wisdom. And that was just a really cool picture, and I wanted to show it. And then my fourth one shows books as art, and it's actually my copy of the Arabian Nights, and it is just, it's beautiful. It's really well written. There are just absolutely beautiful pictures in here. Okay. Yes, and then the back actually is my favorite. You actually have language. The Arabic language is very artistic. It's not written by common people. Common people generally don't learn how to write it. They just learn how to read it. It's only taught how to write it. People who learn that are calligraphers or artists who can write it in a very artistic and beautiful manner. And I've actually seen mosaics and frescoes in mosques where the entire wall is just their words, and it looks like just random squiggles, but it's very beautiful. So that was essentially my project.